Hello, mathematicians. Welcome to math class with me, Ms. Taylor. All right, let's see. Are we ready for math? Got my big eraser. Alrighty. Let's see. Do we have our fact practice packet? Got mine here. Textbook? Check. Workbook? Check. Paper, pencil, or whiteboard? Well, we still need our pencil to do our workbook, but if you want to use your whiteboard, I know I like to write on my whiteboard. And then sometimes we need our place value chart. Today we don't need our place value chart. We will need an eraser. But one thing we will need is our steps to solve word problems. And I like to use mine as a little bookmark. So, oops, there it is. So we will need our, how do I solve a word problem? So if you don't have that, pause the video. Please go and get that. We will be using that today. So let's go ahead and get started on our fact practice packet. We are on page 6 today. Page 6, and this is some subtracting with, subtracting from minuends. Ooh, that's a fancy word. Minuends 10 to 18. And I believe the minuends is a fancy word for this top number. So we call it the whole number. And yeah, didn't know that. It's called the minuends. Okay. So we are going to practice some subtracting, and you're going to try to do this in 1 minute or 2 minutes or perhaps 30 seconds. Try your best. And remember, you're going to check your work on the back side. So we're going to do this and we're going to check to see, do we get our answers correct? And if we didn't, we're going to go ahead and fix those. So last time I had a mistake on mine. Here I subtracted when I was supposed to add. So it's a really good idea to do your work and then check it right away. So let's go ahead and do our fact practice packet. You can pause the video and do this now, or you can do it when we finish, or some of you did it before you started the video. So that's great. The next thing we are going to work on is a problem in our textbooks, and it is on page 37. So let's see, here's our textbook on page 37, and I'm going to get my steps to solve my word problem. I have that right here. And I know the first step is to read the problem. And we're going to underline the question. I'm just going to use my finger to underline, though, because this is my textbook and I don't write in my textbook. No. All right. So there were 287 people in a hall. 52 of them were children. How many adults were there? Okay. So when I read a word problem, I like to kind of imagine or paint a picture in my mind. It's also called visualizing. I know in reading class, we talk about that a lot. It's kind of painting a mental picture or an image. So as I'm reading word problems in math, kind of story problems, I like to get a picture in my mind. So I'm picturing a whole bunch of people in a hall, sort of like a big room, like a great hall, like we have the Great Hall. So 287 people, so a whole bunch of people. 52 of them were children. So kind of a small number were children compared to how many people there were. How many adults were there? So let's go ahead and take a look. We read the problem. Oh, we need to underline the question. Right there. How many adults were there? Okay, so we're trying to find how many adults there were. I know how many kids there were, and I know the total number of people, the whole number, but I don't yet know how many adults, okay? Then we're going to write an answer sentence, leave a blank for the answer. Oh, thank you, workbook. There were blank adults. Thank you. All right, then we're going to identify the who and or the what. So the who, we are trying to find out how many adults were in a hall. So that's my who, adults in a hall, we could say. So there's some trying to find out how many adults there are. Okay. And then we are going to do step 3, draw a unit bar. Okay, and again, because we're still kind of just learning about unit bars, I like to do a number bond and a unit bar. Okay, so there's our number bond, and remember, it doesn't matter if the whole is on the side or at the top or the bottom or the other side, but what does matter is that the whole has the 2 parts coming out of it. So be careful. So this is one of the parts, and this is the other part. And then when we're making our unit bar, fancy name for a rectangle, the important thing here is that the whole is this whole thing, the whole thing. And then the whole can go on the top or the bottom. I like to just make a little bracket, and then we usually chunk it into 2 chunks. And there we have the part and the other part. And then all together it makes the whole. So let's see. We're going to go back and, oh, now I'm on to step 4. I'm going to reread the problem, adjust and chunk your unit bar, fill in the information, write a question mark for the unknown. So this step is the step where we're doing lots of thinking. We're rereading the problem, we're chunking our unit bar, making it shorter or longer sometimes, filling in the information, filling in the numbers, writing a question mark. So lots of thinking for this one. So we have there were 287 people in a hall. So that's our whole number. 287. 287. That's how many people there were. So how many people altogether? We know that some of them were kids. 52 of them were children. So that's one of our parts. And I'm going to make this line actually a little bit because I know there's going to be a bigger number is the adults. I'm going to go ahead and should be using my eraser, shouldn't I? Miss Taylor, use your eraser. Here we go. Then we fill in the question mark for the unknown. That's what we're trying to figure out, the unknown. Oh, it's like the unknown regions in the city of Ember. Okay, so the missing part is how many adults there were. Now, if we wanted to, we could label this some more. I really like labeling. It makes everything really clear in my mind. And also so I can see it. It's kind of a visual, something that helps us to see and organize the information. So if I wanted to label this number bond, I could say 287 people. That's our whole number. I know 52 of them were kids or children. And then I'm trying to figure out how many adults. So that's kind of the missing part. And it's also the difference. I'm trying to find out kind of the difference between these 2 numbers. And then down here, I could do the same thing. So I know there's 52 kids. I don't know how many adults there are yet. And I know there's 287 people altogether. Now, if we label our number bond or our unit bar, it's also another chance for us to check to see if we have any mistakes. Because usually if we're labeling something and we're looking again at the problem, it's easier for us to see like, oh, wait a second, there weren't 52 adults, there were 52 kids. Or there weren't 287 adults, there's 287 people. And I'm trying to find the number of adults. All right, so let's go on to step 5, work your computation. Add, subtract, multiply, or divide. We haven't learned about multiplying or dividing yet, so we're going to have to add or subtract. And they are giving us a big clue here, kind of telling us what we should do. But we should be able to tell that because we have the whole number, one of the parts. We have to find the missing part or the difference. And we know to find the missing part or the difference, we have to subtract. So 287 minus 52. I'm going to line up my ones, my tens, my hundreds. I'm going to put a little 0 here. 7 minus 2 is 5. Let me see, is that right? Because 5 plus 2 makes 7. Yep. 8 minus 5 is 3, because 3 plus 5 makes 8. And 2 minus 0 is 2, because 2 plus 0 is 2. So we can use the inverse operation, the opposite, to help us check our answer. Then we get our answer, and we fill in our answer, check to make sure it makes sense. So here's where we can go back, cross off our question mark, put in our answer, and see, would that make sense if there were 235 adults, 52 kids, 287 people? That looks right, because this part is smaller than the whole number. And I can do the same with my number bond. And then if we had this in our workbook, we would also go and fill it in our answer sentence. All right, so that is how we solve problems with subtracting a 3-digit number from another 3-digit number. So your homework for today is just one page. And again, the reason we're just doing one page is to really encourage you to slow down. And I would like you to try to do all the steps. All the steps, Miss Taylor? All of these? Ah, don't panic. Should we do one together? Okay. So we are on page 45. Looks like this. And, whoop, Miss Taylor, it looks like you didn't finish your homework from yesterday. I better finish. Okay. So let's take a look at number 2. Oh, Taylor. Different spelling, but Taylor bought 68 buttons. Tailor is someone who makes alterations or changes on clothes, or who designs and makes clothes. Let's see. A tailor bought 68 buttons. He used 43 of them. How many buttons did he have left? Okay, so let's go ahead. We read the problem. Let's underline the question. All right. And then we're going to go ahead and write an answer sentence. Leave a blank for the answer. So a lot of times our workbooks helps us with this, don't they? But a little bit later in the year, we're going to write our own answer sentence. So how we do that is we look at the question, how many buttons did he have left? And then we sort of take away the question word or words, how many, we don't really need that question word. And then we try to use as many words as we can from the question in our answer. So how many buttons did he have left? So we can take off those question words. Buttons did he have left? So let's start with this word he. He had blank buttons left. So we used he. Change this one. He had blank buttons left. So we're trying to use as many words from the question as we can in our answer. Okay, let's identify the who and or the what, the subject. Well, we're talking about a tailor, and we're talking about buttons. So we can say a tailor's buttons. And we're going to use an apostrophe S to show that the buttons belong to the tailor. Okay, and one other thing I like to do in my workbook, I like to circle the number words to help my brain notice those numbers. Okay, all right, next step is to draw a unit bar. And again, you can draw a number bond or a unit bar or both. So I'm going to draw both just to kind of help us see what this would look like. Okay, so there's our number bond and our unit bar. Now the next step is the step where we have a lot of thinking to do. Step 4. Reread the problem, adjust and chunk your unit bar. We haven't really been adjusting too much. That means make it longer or shorter, but we've definitely been chunking it. That means kind of cutting it. And then we're going to fill in the information, write a question mark for the unknown. Ooh, the unknown regions. All right. So let's see. A tailor used 68 buttons. A tailor bought 68 buttons. Trying to think of what that would look like. Okay, I'm picturing a tailor, person who fixes clothing and is going in and buying a bunch of buttons, okay? He used 43 of them. How many buttons did he have left? Ooh, I think that's kind of a clue for us. How many did he have left? So he had some, then he used some, and he had some left. So they have given us the whole number. This is kind of the number that we start with. He had this many, he used this many, and we're trying to find out how many he had left. So there's our whole number. This is the number that he used, and then our question mark is how many he had left. And if you wanted to label that even more, you could totally do that. So let's see. This is kind of our whole number. This is sort of how many, or we could even say this is how many he had at first. And then he used, this is how many he used. And then we're trying to find out how many did he have left. All right. And for our unit bar, fancy name for a rectangle, here is our whole. Our whole is the whole thing. And in this problem, we know the tailor had 68 buttons. And I'm going to add those words just to help us at first. He had 68 at first, and then he used 43 of them. And then our other part is how many he had left. And again, if I wanted to label my unit bar, that's how many he used, that's how many he had left. Okay. Then we did a lot of thinking for this one. Then we're going to work our computation. We're going to add or subtract. And I know that if I'm trying to find a missing part, I'm going to subtract. So over to the side here, I'm going to show my thinking. I'm going to show my computation. 68 minus 43. And then I'm going to start in the ones place. I'm going to start at the top. 8 ones minus 3 ones makes 5 ones. Let's see, is that right? I'm going to use my inverse operation. 5 plus 3 makes 8. Yep. And 6 tens minus 4 tens is 2 tens. Let me see, is that right? 2 plus 4 makes 6. Yep, I think that's right. Okay. And then, the lights went out. Then I can go ahead here. I've got my answer. Then I'm going to do the last step is to fill in your answer, check to make sure it makes sense. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to find my question marks. 25, 25. Let's see, would that make sense if he used 43 of them and he had 25 left? And he started with 68 at first. Do these two parts look like they could add up to this number? I think so. Let's see, 43 and 25, would that make 68? Because he had 68 and he used some of them, and then he had some left. Yeah, this part is smaller than the whole number. That would make sense. So then I go ahead and I write in my answer in my answer sentence. And I think it makes sense. I could give myself a little check mark. I could give myself a little star to show, yep, I checked it, and I think it makes sense. It's my best thinking. All right, so that is all your homework for today. It is one page, and because it is only one page, there are only 3 problems. Please try your best. This is our challenge, is to try to do all the steps. I think you can do it. What do you think? You don't need to do both number bond and a unit bar. You can choose one, but if you want an extra challenge, try doing both. All right, have a great rest of the day, mathematicians, and I will see you again soon.